I'd always thought my life with Clara was something solid, like a house built on stone instead of sand. 20 years together, 2 kids grown and off to college, and a rhythm to our days that felt comfortable, predictable. I'm an architect. Ironic, maybe, considering how I designed our marriage to withstand anything. Clara worked part-time at an art gallery, her auburn hair always swept up in a messy bun. Her laugh a melody I could pick out in a crowded room. We weren't perfect, sure. There were nights we barely spoke, dinners where the clink of forks on plates was the loudest sound. But I trusted her. Blindly, it turns out. Started with the phone. Not hers, mine. A notification pinged late one evening. Some random message from an ex account I didn't follow. "Check your wife's Thursday nights," it said, followed by a grainy photo. Clara, unmistakable in her green coat, stepping into a car I didn't recognize. The timestamp, last Thursday, 9:17 p.m. She told me she was at a gallery event that night, something about a new artist's opening. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the delete button. Prank, I told myself. Some bored troll with too much time. But the seed was planted, and it grew roots faster than I could yank them out. Thursday rolled around again. Clara kissed me goodbye that morning, her lips soft against my unshaven cheek. "Late night at the gallery," she said, her voice as casual as ever. I nodded, sipping my coffee, watching her grab her purse and head out the door. The day dragged, blueprints blurred on my desk, clients' voices faded to static. By 8 p.m., I was in my car, parked a block from the gallery, feeling like a fool. She'd be inside, sipping wine, charming strangers. I'd laugh at myself later, except when I peeked through the window, she wasn't there. The gallery was half empty, no sign of her green coat or that familiar bun. My stomach twisted. I drove home, telling myself she'd beat me there. She hadn't. She walked in at 11:43 p.m., cheeks flushed, eyes bright. "Long night," she murmured, kicking off her shoes. I asked how the event went. She shrugged, said it was fine, and disappeared upstairs. Her coat smelled like cedar and something sharper, not her perfume. I stood in the dark kitchen, holding that damn coat, wondering who'd worn it last. The ex message glowed in my mind like a neon sign. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I started digging quietly, methodically, the way I draft a building plan. First step, her phone. She'd left it charging downstairs. A rare slip. I cracked her passcode. Our anniversary, predictable, and scrolled. Texts from Gallery Lisa, about meeting at a bar called the Velvet Thorn. No gallery event. No Lisa in her contacts matched that number. My hands shook as I set the phone back, the architect in me already sketching a collapse I couldn't unsee. The Velvet Thorn wasn't a place Clara would have chosen on her own. Tucked in a grimy corner of the city, it was all dim lights and leather booths, the kind of spot where secrets festered. I went there the next night, a Friday, telling myself I just needed proof she'd lied. I didn't expect to see her, but there she was, in a booth near the back, laughing with a man I'd never seen before. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair slicked back and a smile that cut like a blade. Clara leaned into him, her hand brushing his arm, her head tilted the way it used to tilt toward me when we were young. I stayed in the shadows, nursing a whiskey I didn't drink, watching them. He wore a tailored suit, expensive but loud, like he wanted the room to notice. Clara glowed beside him, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. They didn't kiss. Not then. But the air between them crackled with something intimate, something I hadn't felt from her in years. I snapped photos with my phone, blurry but damning, my architect's eye cataloging every detail. The way his knee pressed against hers under the table, the way she didn't pull away. Driving home, my mind churned. Who was he? How long had this been going on? I pulled into our garage, sat there in the dark, and opened X. That anonymous message stared back at me. I typed a reply. "Who are you? What do you know?" No response came, but I didn't need one yet. I needed facts, a foundation to build my next move. Saturday morning, Clara hummed in the kitchen, oblivious. I asked about her week, fishing. She mentioned the gallery, the artist, lies so smooth I almost believed them. Almost. That afternoon, I hired a guy, a private investigator named Ray. Rough around the edges but discreet. Follow her, I said. I want everything. Ray didn't waste time. By Monday he had a name, Vincent Caruso. Real estate developer, mid-40s, married, no kids. A man who collected properties and, apparently, other men's wives. Ray's report included photos. Clara and Vincent at the Velvet Thorn, at a hotel downtown, her arm looped through his like they were a couple. One shot showed them stepping into an elevator, her hand on his chest, his lips brushing her ear. My chest tightened, but I kept reading. Vincent had a penthouse, a silver BMW, a reputation for charm. Clara wasn't his first affair. I thanked Ray, paid him double to keep going. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a demolition. Clara didn't suspect a thing. That was the worst part, her ease, her normalcy. Tuesday night, she baked cookies, chatting about our daughter's latest college update. I nodded, smiled, played the part while my mind replayed Vincent's hand on her waist. I'd started tracking her phone with an app Ray recommended. A little icon pulsing on my screen whenever she moved. Thursday, it showed her at the gallery, then an hour later at Vincent's penthouse. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Rage simmered, but I needed more. I needed to understand why. I went through her things that week, something I'd never done before. Her purse yielded nothing but receipts and lipstick. Her laptop, though, jackpot. She'd left it open on the couch. Browser history uncleared. Searches for weekend getaways. Best lingerie boutiques. Emails to Vincent under a fake name. Can't wait for Saturday. One read. Miss your hands. My vision blurred reading that. My fists clenching until my knuckles whitened. Saturday was our anniversary. She'd planned a girls' trip that weekend. Said she'd be back Sunday night. I'd bought her flowers already. A necklace. Now I saw the lie for what it was. I called Ray. Tail her Saturday, I said. I want video. He grunted agreement. Friday night, Clara packed a suitcase, all breezy smiles. See you Sunday, she said, kissing my forehead. I watched her drive off, then opened a bottle of scotch. The house felt hollow without her, but it wasn't her absence that gutted me. It was her presence elsewhere. Ray's first update came at 10 p.m. Clara and Vincent at a cabin 2 hours north, a rental under his name. Photos followed. Her in a red dress, him pouring wine, their shadows merging on the porch. I stared at my phone, the scotch burning my throat, and made a decision. This wasn't ending quietly. By Sunday morning, I'd mapped it out. Vincent's life was public, business deals, charity galas, a wife named Elena who smiled in every photo. Clara's was private, but I knew her weaknesses. Pride, control, the need to be adored. I'd use both against them. I didn't sleep that night, sketching plans, not buildings but ruin. Clara came home Sunday evening, glowing, claiming she'd had such a relaxing trip. I hugged her, smelled his cologne on her skin, and smiled. She had no idea the foundation was already cracking. The next week, I played the oblivious husband to perfection. Breakfasts together, small talk about her day, even a movie night where I let her pick some artsy film she loved. Inside, I was a furnace, stoking a fire she couldn't see. Ray kept feeding me updates. Vincent took Clara to his office after hours, a rooftop dinner with city lights as their backdrop. Each photo, each timestamp was a brick in the wall I was building. Not to keep her in, but to bury them both. I stopped asking myself why she'd done it. The why didn't matter anymore. The how and the what next did. I dug into Vincent's world. His real estate empire was flashy but fragile. Over-leveraged. A house of cards waiting for a gust. His wife, Elena, was a socialite, all pearls and charity boards, but her ex-posts hinted at boredom, loneliness. I created a burner account, followed her, studied her. She liked attention, validation. Perfect. I sent Ray to dig deeper into Vincent's finances, his habits. Find dirt, I said. Anything I can use. Meanwhile, I watched Clara. She'd started dressing differently. Sharper heels, brighter lipstick. She thought I didn't notice. I noticed everything. Thursday night, she left for the gallery again. I followed this time, not trusting Ray to catch it all. She met Vincent at a park, of all places, their silhouettes blending under a street lamp. They sat on a bench, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her. It was so casual, so tender. It almost broke me. Almost. I filmed it, hands steady, breath shallow. Back home, I uploaded the footage to a drive, labeled it evidence, and kept going. Friday, Ray called. Vincent's got a side deal, he said. Shady loans, off-the-book stuff. His wife doesn't know. Neither does the IRS. I grinned into the phone. Keep digging. Saturday, I took Clara out, dinner, wine, the works. She seemed surprised, pleased even. You're sweet, she said, squeezing my hand. I smiled, imagining her face when it all came down. That night, I mailed an envelope to Elena Caruso. Photos of Vincent and Clara. A note in block letters. He's not who you think. No return address. Sunday, I watched Elena's X account. A cryptic post appeared. Trust is a fragile thing. I leaned back, sipping coffee, feeling the first tremor of the quake I'd set in motion. Clara hummed in the kitchen, oblivious. Not for long. Monday morning, the world shifted. Elena Caruso didn't waste time. Her X account erupted, public accusations. Photos I'd sent splashed across the platform, tagging Vincent and his company. Liar. Cheat. Thief. She wrote, each word a sledgehammer. By noon, his business partners were distancing themselves, clients pulling out. I sat at my desk, blueprints forgotten, refreshing the feed. Clara called me at lunch, voice tight. Have you seen this mess with Vincent Caruso? She asked. I feigned ignorance. Who's that? She hesitated. Just some guy from the gallery crowd. It's crazy. I agreed, hung up, and smiled. She didn't know I'd lit the match. Ray texted. Vincent was scrambling, meeting lawyers, damage control in overdrive. Clara's phone showed her at home all day, unusual for a Monday. I got home that evening, found her on the couch, staring at her laptop. Rough day? I asked. She nodded, distracted. Gallery drama. I didn't push. That night, she barely ate, her eyes darting to her phone every few minutes. Vincent must have reached out. Good. Let him squirm. Tuesday, Elena filed for divorce, publicly, messily. The news hit X like wildfire, dragging Vincent's name through the mud. Clara left early Wednesday, claiming a meeting. Her tracker showed Vincent's penthouse. I met Ray that afternoon. He handed me a USB drive. Audio, he said. Caught them at the cabin last weekend. It's personal. I listened later, alone in my car. Clara's voice, soft, laughing, promising Vincent things she'd once promised me. His voice, smug, calling her his muse. My hands gripped the wheel until my knuckles ached. That night, I copied the audio, sent it to Elena's lawyer anonymously. Thursday, Vincent's company stock tanked. Insider whispers of fraud, thanks to Ray's dirt. Clara came home pale, quiet. You okay? I asked. She nodded, too quick. Friday, I upped the ante. I hired a guy to hack Vincent's email, nothing traceable, all cash. By Saturday, I had it. Messages between him and Clara, plans for a new life. Mentions of money he'd funneled to impress her. I leaked it to a local blogger, watched it spread. Sunday, Clara sat me down. We need to talk, she said, eyes red. I braced myself, ready to play dumb. Vincent's in trouble, she whispered. I know him. It's complicated. I tilted my head, calm as stone. How complicated? She faltered, and I knew. The cracks were widening. Clara's words hung in the air. It's complicated. And I let them linger, watching her squirm. Her eyes, usually so steady, darted to the floor, her fingers twisting the hem of her sweater. Vincent's just a friend, she said finally, voice thin as paper. He's going through a lot, and I've been helping him. I nodded, slow and deliberate, like I was buying it. Helping how? I asked, keeping my tone light, curious. She stumbled, mentioned gallery connections, late-night talks. Lies stacked like shaky scaffolding. I didn't push, not yet. I wanted her to dig deeper, to feel safe in her deception a little longer. That night, she slept soundly while I sat in my office, the glow of my laptop painting shadows on the walls. Vincent's empire was crumbling faster now. Lawsuits from investors, whispers of audits. Elena's divorce filing had cracked him open, and the leaks I'd fed the blogger were gasoline on the fire. I pulled up the audio from Ray again, listened to Clara's laughter, her promises. "Once this deal closes, we'll leave," she told Vincent, her voice soft, certain. "Leave me, leave our life." My jaw tightened. I shut the laptop, poured a drink, and let the plan solidify. She thought she held the strings. She was wrong. Monday, Clara was jittery, checking her phone constantly. I caught a glimpse Vincent's name, a text, "Need to see you. Urgent." She left that evening, claiming a friend's emergency. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. Ray's updates came an hour later. Clara at Vincent's penthouse, pacing, arguing. Photos showed her gesturing wildly, him slouched, defeated. Good. Let them unravel together. I spent the night drafting, an architect's habit, but this wasn't a building. It was a trap, precise and unyielding. By dawn, I had it. A way to strip them both bare, not just of money or pride, but of everything they valued. Tuesday, she came home late, eyes puffy, makeup smudged. "Rough night?" I asked, flipping through a magazine I wasn't reading. She mumbled something about stress, disappeared upstairs. I waited until her breathing steadied through the bedroom door, then checked her phone. Vincent's texts were frantic. "Elena knows everything. We're done if she talks." Clara's reply, "We'll figure it out. Stay calm." Calm? I almost laughed. I forwarded the thread to my burner email, deleted the evidence from her device, and slept better than I had in weeks. The endgame was close, I could feel it. Wednesday morning, I struck. Elena's lawyer had the audio by now, and I'd tipped off a tabloid, small, hungry, perfect for the job. By noon, headlines screamed, "Real estate mogul's affair exposed. Secret recordings reveal all." Clara's name wasn't in it yet, but Vincent's was plastered everywhere, his voice on loop across X, boasting about her, about their plans. I watched her from the kitchen as she scrolled her phone, her face draining of color. "Oh my God," she whispered, hand trembling. "What's wrong?" I asked, all concern. She shook her head, muttered about work drama, and bolted upstairs. The fallout was instant. Vincent's partners cut ties, his penthouse went up for sale, his BMW repossessed. Elena's ex-posts turned vicious, photos of Clara now, my anonymous gift to her lawyer paying off. "Meet the other woman," Elena captioned one. Clara's green coat unmistakable. I refreshed the feed, sipping coffee, as comments piled up. "Homewrecker. Disgusting." Clara's phone buzzed nonstop. Gallery friends, I assumed, distancing themselves. She came downstairs, pale, clutching her stomach. "I need to go out," she said. I nodded, didn't ask where. I knew. Ray confirmed it. Vincent's place again. She stayed 3 hours, emerged red-eyed, clutching a bag. I waited at home, calm, while the tabloid dropped part 2, Vincent's shady loans, tied to Clara's consulting payments. Fake invoices I'd planted via the hacker, now public. She walked in at dusk, dropped her bag, and stared at me. "I have to tell you something," she said, voice cracking. I leaned back, ready. "Vincent and we got close. Too close. It's over now, I swear." She cried, begged forgiveness. I listened, silent, letting her think she'd confessed enough. She hadn't. That night, I mailed Vincent's wife a final package. Clara's lingerie receipt, time-stamped from their cabin weekend, paired with a note. "She's all yours now." Thursday, Elena went nuclear, filing a civil suit against Clara for emotional distress, citing the affair. The gallery fired Clara by lunchtime, reputation risk, they said. She sat on the couch, sobbing while I cooked dinner, humming. "It'll blow over," I told her, sliding a plate her way. She didn't eat. I did, savoring every bite. The stage was set, and the curtain was still rising. Friday, Clara barely spoke. She shuffled around the house, a ghost in her own skin, jumping at every notification. The tabloids kept churning. Vincent's arrest for fraud hit the news, her name tangled in the mess as an associate. Our neighbors whispered. I saw curtains twitch when I left for work. She tried calling Vincent. His number was disconnected. I watched her unravel, piece by piece, while I tightened the screws. Ray handed me a new report. Vincent's offshore accounts, drained by Elena's legal team. He was broke, cornered. Perfect. I met a guy that afternoon, an old client, shady but useful. He dealt in information, the kind that ruined lives quietly. Make Vincent disappear, I said, sliding him cash. Not physically, just socially, financially, completely. He grinned, promised results. Saturday, Clara tried rallying. I'll fix this, she told me, voice shaky but determined. I'll talk to Elena, explain. I shrugged. If you think it'll help. She left, hopeful, naive. Elena's ex-post came an hour later. Begging won't change facts. Stay away. Clara returned defeated, mascara streaked. Sunday, I escalated. I kept one card close, the cabin audio unedited. I uploaded it to X from a burner, tagged Vincent's old business accounts. Let it spread. Clara's voice filled timelines. I deserve more than him, she'd said, meaning me. Friends texted me condolences. She saw them, shrank further. Monday, the kids called, our daughter furious, our son confused. Mom's all over the internet, they said. I played dumb, promised to handle it. Clara overheard, locked herself in the bathroom, sobbing. I knocked, offered tea. She didn't answer. Tuesday, Vincent's mugshot hit, fraud charges stuck, bail denied. Clara stared at the TV, mute, while I worked late, finalizing blueprints. Not for a building, for her ruin. I'd found her journal, buried in a drawer, pages of gushing about Vincent, regrets about me. I scanned them, sent copies to her sister, her best friend, and signed. Wednesday, they stopped calling her. She sat alone, staring at walls, while I smiled into my coffee. The shell was cracking and I wasn't done. Thursday, I turned the knife. Clara's gallery hosted an event. Her old boss emailed, begging her not to show, citing optics. I forwarded it to her from my work account. Casual. This came to me by mistake. She read it, crumpled, didn't leave the house. Friday, I hired a courier, sent Vincent's wife a gift. Clara's favorite scarf, left at the cabin with a note. He kept this. Elena posted it online, captioned, thief and a liar. Clara saw, screamed into a pillow. I watched, silent, from the doorway. Saturday, I staged the mirror. I'd printed her journal pages, blown them up, taped them to our bedroom walls. I'm tired of pretending, one read. Vincent sees me. She walked in, froze, hands shaking. What is this? She whispered. I shrugged. Found it. Thought you'd want to see. She tore them down, sobbing, accusing me of cruelty. You did this? I said, voice flat. I'm just showing you. She ran out, slept in the guest room. I left the scraps on the floor. Sunday, the kids came home unplanned, worried. Clara tried explaining, stumbled over half-truths. Our daughter walked out mid-sentence. Our son stayed cold. I cooked dinner, let them talk, let her flail. Monday, I leaked the cabin photos, Clara in that red dress, Vincent's arm around her, to her church group's email list. Tuesday, she got the call, excommunicated. She sat, staring at nothing, while I whistled, washing dishes. The mirror was up. She couldn't unsee herself now. Wednesday, Vincent's trial began. Clara watched the news, mute, as witnesses named her. His consultant, his motivation. I sat beside her, offered popcorn. She flinched, left the room. Thursday, I mailed her parents a package. The lingerie receipt, journal excerpts, a letter. She's not who you raised. Friday, they called, disowned her. She broke, begged me to stop it. Stop what? I asked, innocent. She had no answer. The truth was her cage now, and I held the key. Saturday, Clara cracked wide open. She packed a bag, hands trembling, muttering about leaving, starting over. "I can't stay here," she said, avoiding my eyes. I didn't stop her. Let her think escape was an option. She drove to a motel, cheap and gray, her tracker blinking on my screen. Ray followed, reported back. She'd called Vincent's lawyer, begged for contact. No dice, he was in jail, unreachable. Sunday, she returned, defeated, bag untouched. "I'm sorry," she whispered, collapsing on the couch. I nodded, poured her water, said nothing. Monday, I finished Vincent. My shady client delivered. Vincent's cellmate got a burner phone. A script. By Tuesday, X lit up with leaked calls. Vincent blaming Clara, calling her a gold digger. A mistake. True or not, it stuck. She saw, screamed, threw her phone. I picked it up, handed it back. Calm. Wednesday, her bank account froze. Elena's lawsuit, claiming Clara's consulting cash. She had nothing left. No job, no friends, no family. Thursday, I filed for divorce, served her at breakfast. She stared at the papers, silent, broken. Friday, the kids sided with me. Publicly, on X, thanking me for strength. Clara read it, shrank smaller. Saturday, I sold the house, our house. Under her nose, papers signed weeks ago. She'd get nothing. I'd planned it that way. Sunday, she left. No goodbye, just a note. "You win." I didn't reply. I'd won months ago, the moment I'd seen that X message. The revenge wasn't loud or fast. It was slow, surgical. A collapse she'd built herself. I poured a drink, sat in the empty living room, and smiled. Vincent rotted in a cell, Clara in a void. My blueprints were complete, the structure raised. Tomorrow I'd start again, alone, unburdened, free. Monday after Clara left, the house felt lighter, like a blueprint scrubbed clean of errors. I packed what mattered, photos of the kids, my drafting tools, a few books, and let the movers take the rest. The sale closed fast. The new owners, a young couple, had no idea what ghosts lingered in those walls. I didn't care. I'd rented a loft downtown, minimalist, all sharp lines and glass. Suited me now, clean, untainted. Clara's note sat on my desk. 2 words in her shaky scrawl. "You win." I didn't frame it, didn't burn it. I just left it there, a quiet trophy. Tuesday, I checked on Vincent. His trial was a circus. Prosecutors piling on charges, his lawyer flailing. X buzzed with updates. Former allies testifying, his smug face replaced by a haggard shell. I'd made sure Ray's dirt reached the right hands, those offshore accounts, the fake loans tied to Clara. She was named again, a footnote in his collapse, her consulting a punchline. I imagined her seeing it. Wherever she'd hold up, her pride dissolving like sugar in rain. I didn't call her. She'd feel it without me lifting a finger. Wednesday, the kids came by the loft. Our daughter, Emily, hugged me tight, her voice fierce. "You didn't deserve that, Dad." Our son, Nate, nodded, quieter but solid. They'd cut Claire off, not my doing. There's her ex-posts, rare now, were cryptic, pleading, "I'm still your mom." No replies came. I cooked for them steak and potatoes, and we talked about their lives, their futures. Clara's name didn't come up. She was a shadow fading from our blueprint, and I let her drift. That night, I slept deep, dreamless, the weight of her betrayal finally off my chest. Thursday, I tied a loose end. Elena Caruso's lawsuit against Clara had escalated. Bank records I'd leaked showed Vincent funneling cash to her, labeled gifts. Elena's team seized it all, left Clara with a motel room and a bus pass. I sent Elena a bottle of wine, and signed, a thank you she'd never trace. Her ex-post that day, "Justice tastes sweet," made me grin. Vincent's cellmate kept the pressure up, too. Another leaked call hit the tabloids, him ranting about Clara's greed. True or not, it painted her as the villain. I leaned back in my chair, satisfied. The echoes were loud, and they weren't mine. Friday, I walked past the Velvet Thorn. The bar looked dingier now, its allure stripped bare. I didn't go in, just stood there, Remembering Clara's laugh, Vincent's smirk. It was a museum of my old life and I was done curating it. Back at the loft, I opened my laptop, checked X. Clara had posted a photo, her in that green coat, alone on a park bench, caption starting over. Comments were brutal. Too late. Karma's real. I didn't pile on. I didn't need to. The world was doing my work now. A chorus I'd orchestrated without singing a note. Saturday, Ray called. She's at a shelter, he said. Lost the motel gig. Couldn't pay. I pictured her there, surrounded by strangers, her auburn hair unwashed, her pride a memory. Keep tabs. I told him, then hung up. I didn't feel joy, not exactly, just a hollow calm, like finishing a project past deadline. Vincent's sentencing came that afternoon. 10 years, no parole. His penthouse sold for pennies, his name a cautionary tale. I watched the news, sipped scotch, and felt the scales balance. They'd built their tower. I'd raised it to dust. Sunday, I met an old client for lunch. He'd heard rumors, asked about Clara. She's gone. I said simple, final. He didn't pry. We talked buildings instead, new projects, clean slates. That night, I sketched for the first time in months. A tower of my own, all steel and sky. It wasn't revenge driving me now, it was reclamation. Clara's ruin was complete, Vincent's too. But mine? Mine was just beginning and it would stand tall. I left her note on the desk, untouched, a relic I'd outgrown. Monday, a package arrived, Clara's journal, mailed back by her sister. No note. I flipped through it, read her last entry. He'll never forgive me. She was right. I tossed it in the trash, watched the truck haul it away. The victory wasn't loud or warm. It was quiet, cold, mine. I locked the loft, headed to work, and didn't look back. Tuesday, Clara tried reaching out. A voicemail, her voice small, cracked. I know you hate me, but I need help. Please. I listened once, deleted it. She'd woven this net. Let her drown in it. Ray's update came later. She'd pawned her wedding ring, got a few bucks, spent it on a bus ticket north. I didn't care where. The kids saw her post about it, called me instead of her. She's grasping, Emily said. Let her go. I agreed, and we planned a weekend trip instead, mountains, fresh air, no past. Wednesday, Vincent's cellmate delivered again. A photo leaked, him in prison stripes, bruised, broken. My guy had arranged a little welcome. Nothing fatal, just humbling. X ate it up. King to convict, they crowed. Clara's name surfaced in the comments, tied to his fall. She posted that night. A single word. Enough. No one replied. I imagined her staring at her screen, alone, the last thread of her old life snapping. I poured a drink, toasted the silence. Thursday, Elena won her suit. Clara's consulting cash gone plus damages. Ray said she'd been spotted at a diner, washing dishes, her hands raw. I didn't gloat, just nodded, filed it away. Friday, the gallery held an auction. Her old paintings, donated by her boss, proceeds to charity. Her name was scrubbed from the plaques. I bought one, hung it in the loft, a reminder not of her, but of me. That night, I slept sound, the architect of their end, my own beginning. Saturday, I got a call. Her parents, asking if I'd seen her. No, I said flat. They hung up, voices heavy. She'd burned every bridge, and I'd handed her the matches. Sunday, I hiked with the kids, laughed louder than I had in years. Clara was a whisper now, a thread snipped clean. I didn't wonder where she was. She'd built her cage. I'd locked it. Monday, I started a new project, a museum all glass and curves, a legacy in concrete. Work filled the void, my hands steady on the drafting table. Clara's collapse faded to background noise, Vincent's too. Tuesday, Ray closed the file, no more updates, job done. She's a ghost, he said. He's a memory. I paid him, shook his hand, moved on. Wednesday, I met someone, a curator, sharp-eyed, no baggage. We talked art, not past. It wasn't love, not yet, just possibility. I liked that. Thursday, X lit up with Vincent's appeal. Denied, sentence upheld. A few mentioned Clara, the muse who sank him. I scrolled past, uninterested. Friday, the kids texted photos from college, smiling, free. I framed them, hung them beside the gallery painting. Saturday, I drove to the old house, saw the new couple planting flowers. They waved. I nodded. It wasn't mine anymore, and I didn't want it. Sunday, I cooked alone, savored the quiet, built something new in my head. A life, not a revenge. The curator called, suggested coffee. I said yes, felt the ground shift solid mine. Clara's notes stayed on the desk, yellowing, irrelevant. I'd won, not by shouting, but by walking away. The foundation was set and I'd build high. Monday, a year later, I stood at the museum's groundbreaking. Cameras flashed, the curator, Lila, beside me, her hand brushing mine. The kids cheered from the crowd, my tower rising behind us. Vincent rotted in a cell, Clara vanished. Rumors said north, a trailer, alone. I didn't check. Her note was trash now, her shadow gone. Tuesday, Lila stayed over, her laugh filling the loft. Wednesday, the kids planned a visit. Thursday, the museum's frame took shape, my design, my mark. Friday, I walked the site, saw my reflection in the glass, older, sharper, free. Saturday, I toasted with Lila, the kids, a new family sketched in real time. Sunday, I rested, content. The betrayal was a blueprint burned, the revenge a structure raised. I built better, taller, stronger, mine. The architect had triumphed, and the past stayed buried.